I think we touched upon a little bit about saying were some pubs, like the Smelters Arms, for example, which features in the 1956 film. Yeah. The guy, who did that film was the guy that went on to Everest, and he's an interesting character, the filmmaker, and there's that element which the Smelters Arms mentioned, but that kind of made us start to think about the social life, which is kind of crucial to a community. And I think, as somebody said, and this is a long question, isn't it? Somebody said last week, when they go in a pub, you would know faces in the pub, and whereas now, as you were saying last week, Joe, that isn't the case. So that's one thing. Another thing that's kind of cropped up as well is the feeling with some people that I've spoken to, or indirectly in a sense, that when concert was closed, or was going to be closed, that the works conveners weren't political enough, didn't spread the net wide enough. It was kind of a parochial approach, and they saw it as a financial thing rather than a political thing. What I mean by that sounds very convoluted, is that they didn't involve other unions and from outside of the works. They didn't make it as expansive as they should have perhaps done in order to make that. And one of the banners, which says which if you probably remember better than me, was in the black. So it's kind of taken a financial approach rather than a political approach, and some more politicized people within the community and within the works might have advocated that approach, that we really needed to make the fight bigger than this is a town's fight, end of story. That's a long sort of introductory question, but does it raise any issues with anyone?
If I'm not mistaken, didn't we try and get Middlesbrough involved? And
we did, but why did we close? Middlesbrough didn't want concert to survive.
That's right.
And that's why I think we became isolated. Because no other steelworks, with No.1 being Teesside, they didn't want us to survive. It was because of those. One of the reasons was because of that we closed. So yeah, we were probably isolated. And who else? There was no other big engineering unions, or nobody had any force or anything to do with concert. There was nothing else around the area where we could draw other unions in to help us.
Yeah, but could it be? I don't know the answer to this. I'm begging the question.
The only unions you could have pulled in, I'm saying, that was ISTC, the Steelworkers Union. Nobody else was in it except people in there. And then you had the engineers, electricians, and etc., etc. That means what you're saying is they'd have to go to other factories and ask them down tools and support us. Not a cat and hell's chance. They're not going to give the wages up. And I think they know that concert was fighting a losing battle no matter what, because Ransom and Miles was the next big firm to go down around here. Now that would have been probably based on more engineers and craftsmen percentage-wise in there than what there was at the company. And they weren't going to put the tools down because they shut about 18 months later.
And I cannot remember when a mine closed, concert ever got involved in any fight to save any mines. I mean, it was, I think you felt, from my point of view, I'm all right, Jack. That sounds awful. But we were kicked in the teeth when we closed. And at the end of the day, we said, you fight for yourself almost. You were more concerned for your family and your young family than going out and trying to get other people involved in the fight. But I agree what Fred says, that I don't think anybody would have supported us.
You had the local trades council, which did draw in from other factories, other things. They did give their support, but it was
not by striking,
not that strong. But there was a trades council there, and you had David Watkins, the MP, you had Giles Radici from Chesley Street. They all tried to rally, because it wasn't just concert. There was a lot of people from Stanley, a lot of people from Chopwell, a lot of people from Langley Park. It wasn't just the major concubine of concert that was affected. It was a lot of other areas, and they did try, but again, and you were on strike for 13 weeks.
That's just what I was going to say.
And they were on strike. There was a lot of men lost a lot of money, and they were never going to recuperate the money that they lost.
Exactly.
And then when they got the redundancy, well, I would think it would pay up some of the money they borrowed to get through the strike period. There was a lot of unpleasantries when the strike went on. There was few guys had to put the family first, and they broke the strike. They crossed the picket lines, and they did go through difficult times, not just going through the picket lines, but when the steelworks went back, they suffered the consequences, and some of them are still suffering now.
Yeah.
But at the time, the Bill Sears from, I think it was down ISTC, says we will fight tooth and nail to save Concert Works. But, as you said, Alan, no one came up from Middlesbrough, no one came from any of the steelworks who were going through. Hartlepool had lost a lot of their rolling mills, other things, and we didn't go down Hartlepool when it closed. I think I remember going down and taking some of the gear out of the old sinter plant and everything, and using it at the Concert Steelworks.
Well, I might be wrong, but did some pickets not come up from Teesside to help our pickets at Concert? I think there was an instance where some people come from Teesside to make sure that nobody or few people broke the picket line at Concert, because, as Joe says, we lost 3 months' wages for a minimum percentage rise. We were fighting an extra couple of percent. We had 9 months. We went back in April and we closed in September. So we had 6 months to make that percentage up, and we didn't have a chance. So I think Teesside were frightened because they had a long-term future. They could make the money up over the coming years. And I might be wrong, but I thought that there was talk of people from Teesside coming up to marshal the picket lines to make sure that we didn't break the strike. The only thing I will say, I can always remember, I don't know if every department, but our department were given a handout the day we went back after the strike by British Steel. We went to I know the technical department did. We got £100 in our hands because of the hardship we'd suffered, and we were destitute. You know, we were all that age where we had young families.
So really, it was kind of, just to an extent, it was the weakening of resolve because of that 13-week strike, and you know the obvious desire to make up that money. But do you think that the Trades Council or the conveners and the others within the steelworks did enough to encourage other unions, if that were possible, to support your...
You've got to realise the union that went on strike was the steelworkers. It wasn't the craftsmen. I wasn't asked if I wanted to go on strike. The craftsmen were going on strike. The plant was going to get shut down. It wasn't making anything, so they didn't need craftsmen in. They only needed skeleton crews. So that was us out on strike, and we didn't want it. I didn't want it. And I think quite a few people that I spoke to who weren't in the steelworkers union, the craft side and the likes of that, didn't want it.
But you've got to remember,
but we didn't have a vote on it.
We didn't get a chance to join it. We had to join the union. When I joined, one of the first things they did was give you a union card. For 17 years, we paid union dues. We were on strike for 3 months. We did not get a penny in strike pay. And I think that caused bitterness towards the unions. You know, and as Joe says, Bill says in his wisdom, we will blockade the country. No steel come in, we'll paralyse it. He didn't know how many ports there was. The talk was, somebody said to him, do you know we're an island? And I think that's where some of the bitterness overflowed then. And I think people just give up with unions in the 6 months leading up to the closure.
Wait, that was Maggie Thatcher's strategy. She wanted to take what she called a weak union on, and it was Sirs. She picked on him. You're only getting 2%. When nationalised industry, you know, and let's be honest, inflation was flying at that time, and she's, oh, you're only getting whatever 2%, whatever it is. Oh, we can't accept that. We are going on strike, and everyone constantly was just going, no, we don't need this. I'll take you 2%, keep the plant going. But that's what she did. She picked on that, and then she was storing everything up to take the miners on, because that was going to be the strongest union she was going to take on to break them, which she did.